Hi, Michael.
Hi.
And we're going to continue talking about some beliefs that people might have about enlightenment, or in this case, enlightened beings or realized beings. Maybe we can define a little better what that means. And we have 4 topics, 4 beliefs. I'll read the first one, and you tell me, Michael, what is the view that Bhagavan has about this, or that he said something in his teachings, or what misunderstandings there might be here. The first one, it says that an enlightened being has no sense of self, or that people might think that it has no sense of self, or they have a rudimentary one. Like, for example, if you call them by their names, they will turn and knowing that it's their name, for example, or enough to know where to put the water when they drink, or to eat, and to know where their mouth is, or something very basic like that. Is that so? What can you say about that?
Well, the idea of an enlightened being, I think what is meant when people talk about an enlightened being, they mean a person who is enlightened. There is actually no such thing as an enlightened person, because enlightenment means the destruction of ego. When ego is destroyed, what remains is our real nature, which is pure awareness. In pure awareness, there is no pure awareness is awareness, but is not aware of anything other than itself. So it is infinite, timeless, spaceless, beyond all limitations. That is the nature of enlightenment. So there is no such thing as an enlightened person. However, so long as we take ourselves to be a person, in this dream of ours, it seems that certain people are enlightened. For example, Bhagavan. It seems to us to be enlightened. Bhagavan isn't enlightened. Bhagavan is enlightenment itself. He is jnana itself. But and also Bhagavan is not a person. Because we take ourselves to be a person, we take ourselves to be this body, we take that body to be Bhagavan. Bhagavan's, one of his fundamental teachings is, I am not this body. But still, in our view, because we experience ourselves as this body, we take that body to be Bhagavan. It is true, in that body, there was no ego. What was shining through that body is just the clarity of pure awareness. And the nature of pure awareness is infinite love. So through that body, we saw the manifestation of the perfect clarity of jnana and the infinite love that is that is our real nature. So, but we see it as a person. Bhagavan is a very kind person. He's very loving to all. We mistake that love as something limited. We limit that love to a person. So if Bhagavan was alive now, we would all want to go to Tiruvannamalai to be with Bhagavan. But Bhagavan says, I'm already within you as I. So we don't need to go anywhere to see Bhagavan. If we want to see Bhagavan, we have to turn within. If we go to Tiruvannamalai and look outside, we're still not seeing Bhagavan. Even if we go there, he'll say, turn within. If you want to see me, see yourself. I am nothing but yourself. So we have this, we all have or it's very easy to fall into to misunderstand, but the person is a jnani. There are persons in whom ego has been completely destroyed, through whom jnana is shining. But what the jnani is not that person. What the jnani is the light and love that is shining through that person. That light and love is shining in our heart even now.
But there seems to be, Michael, like, for example, as opposed to nirvikalpa samadhi, we've heard that there is a state in which you don't even recognize your body as yours or something, or there is no sense of self at all, without and we hear stories of people who don't even know where to put the foot or things like that. At least in the case of Bhagavan, seems to be like he used to function in the world in a way, in this dream world.
Yes, but remember, the world in which he functioned is the world of our own dream. So, and what was functioning in the world? It was a body and a mind. That body and mind, Bhagavan said, I am not this body, I am not this mind. But it's true, through that body and mind, that infinite clarity of pure awareness and that infinite love was shining through that. So Bhagavan was to us, he seems to have been a person. That person whom he seemed to be was clearly a very unique person. I mean, I'm not belittling the value of that person, but what we need to be very clear, that is not what Bhagavan actually is. He seemed to us to be a person. What he actually is our own real nature. What is shining in us as I. That's his teachings. So we need to accept, we need to try to see it from his point of view. Of course, we can't see it from his point of view without destroying our ego, but we at least need to understand theoretically, but Bhagavan is not what he seems to be. He's not the person.
So we could say in that through that body mind, there was some special kind of grace or something that made it function. So in the world,
yes,
he could go, he could answer questions, he would do things for our people.
But what is grace? Grace is nothing but love. But as we actually are, we have infinite love for ourselves. That love that we have for ourselves is grace. Because in Bhagavan's view, he alone exists, so he doesn't see us as other than him. So he loves us as himself. So he's not loving us as a person, he's loving us as himself. That's why Bhagavan was equally kind and equally loving to good people and to bad people. In fact, sometimes he seemed to show more love to the bad people because they're more in need of it. To the good people, he would sometimes seem to ignore because he wanted them to turn within and find him within himself. So, we need to, first thing we need to understand is that Bhagavan is not what he seems to be. An enlightened being, an enlightened person is not actually the person they seem to be. Now, this first belief, an enlightened being has no sense of self. What do we mean by sense of self? In this context, I think it means ego. But truly speaking, sense of self is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the very nature of pure awareness. That is, awareness is always aware of itself. So as pure awareness, we're aware of ourselves. Now we're aware of ourselves as if we're a person. So we're not aware of ourselves as pure awareness. So there's the sense of self in a pure sense is there both in the jnani and in the ajnani, both in one who is enlightened, one who is not enlightened. The difference is in the one who is enlightened, the sense of self is just pure awareness. Whereas in our case, the sense of self is limited to this little cage of flesh and bones. So we both have a sense of self. In ego, in jnani, there is no ego. In us, there is ego. What is ego? Bhagavan said, ego is nothing but the false awareness, I am this body. What is real in ego is the pure awareness I am. The false awareness I am this body, when this pure awareness I am gets mixed, gets conflated with adjuncts, when we take I am to be this body, that when we confuse the two, that is ego. That confused self, that conflated awareness, that is a conflation of pure self-awareness and awareness of body. When these two are conflated as I am this body, that is ego. Remove the adjunct, the body, What remains is I am. That is pure awareness.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. And
So because we see Vijnani as a person, we see Bhagavan as a person. He seems to have hunger, he seems to have thirst, he seems to have hunger, he seems to hear the questions, he seems to answer. All these are true on a seeming level, but none of them are actually true. In the experience of Vijnani, there is no hunger, there is no thirst, there is no body, there is no world, there is just Satchitananda, pure being, pure awareness, and pure love, pure happiness.
yeah, okay. So thank you very much, Michael. Let's move on to the second belief, which says that an enlightened being again never has thoughts, or most because thoughts are caused by the ego. But after realization, or even either there are no thoughts, or there are only practical and selfish thoughts, not ego-related thoughts, or thoughts that are useful or in a way practical. I don't know how to say that.
Okay.
But is that true, or what do you think about that?
The truth is, an enlightened being has no thoughts. Because the first of all thoughts is ego, the thought I. Only after ego rises do other thoughts rise. Bhagavan once jokingly said, everyone says it is so difficult to stop thinking. But however hard I try, I'm not able to think a single thought.
Yeah, so
Of course, he said that jokingly because he never tries to have any thought. He's not but because he seems to us to be a person, he said it as if he's a person, as if he's trying to have thoughts and he can't have a thought. The truth is, he is pure awareness. Pure awareness is awareness devoid of anything other. What is a thought? A thought is an awareness of something other than ourselves. That's why Bhagavan said the whole world is nothing but thoughts.
but in a way, Michael, for example, let's say that, I don't know if this happened or not, it's just imagination, pure imagination. But if he happened to have an idea to improve the ashram, for example, to build something somewhere or to do something in a different way, wouldn't come that from a thought or it's just an impulse?
That is just like in our self-ignorant view, Bhagavan seemed to have a body. He also seemed to have a mind. Because how could he have answered all the questions? How could he have written Uludu Napadu and Nanya and all these and Arunachastuti Panchakam without a mind, without thoughts? So in our view, he seems to be having thoughts, but he says, however hard I try, I'm not able to have a thought. So we should understand from that, our view of him is completely wrong.
It's true. Exactly. It's completely distorted by our ego. Yeah.
Whatever thought he seems to have is only in our view, not in his view.
So I think that sentence says it all about this belief, and we can move on to the third one.
Well, I'll just say something more. When one talks about thoughts, often when we talk about thoughts, we think about the chatter going on in our mind as thoughts. Bhagavan uses thoughts, the term thought, in a much broader sense. For Bhagavan, any mental phenomenon is a thought. And of all thoughts, the first thought is ego. So, and according to Bhagavan, all what seem to be physical phenomena, the things, all the objects of the world we see around us, they are all actually only mental phenomena, because this is all just like in a dream. In a dream, we see what seems to be a physical world, but when we wake up, we recognize it was all just our own thoughts, our own mental projection. So a thought, any phenomenon is a thought. The root of all thoughts, so all phenomenon are objects. The root of all thoughts is the subject, the ego. So Bhagavan said, only after ego rises do other thoughts arise. Without ego, there can be no other thoughts. So if we want people to say, I try to meditate, I try to keep away all thoughts. The I who is trying to keep away all thoughts in meditation is itself a thought, because that is ego. If we want to get rid of all thoughts, It's very, very easy. All we need to do is get rid of ego. It's easy, but why none of us are doing it? Because we are not willing to do it. It's not that it's difficult, it's that we are not yet ready to let go of everything else.
So ego is the carrier of all thoughts, of all phenomena, everything.
But
Yeah.
the ego is the thinker. It is thoughts exist only in the view of ego. Because though ego is a thought, it is fundamentally different to all other thoughts, because no other thought is sentient. I can think, for example, of an apple. Who is aware of the apple, of that thought of an apple? I am. That thought of an apple is not sentient. Even our desires. I can have desire for, say, I'd like to eat a nice meal now. That who is aware of that desire? I am aware of that desire. Who has that desire? It's my desire. That desire is not aware of a meal. So everything exists only in the view of ego. Ego is the only thought that is sentient, that is aware. All other thoughts are jada. Ego is a mixture of awareness, I am, and a body which is non-aware, jada. That is why the ego is called chit, jada, granti. Chit means awareness, jada means what is non-aware, and granti means a knot. So it's an entanglement of what is aware and what is not aware. So when we investigate ourselves, we try to hold on to what is aware, that is to I am alone. The more we hold on to I am, the more other things drop off. Because the more we hold on to means focus our attention on. The more we focus our attention on ourselves, the more other things recede into the background of our awareness. We are withdrawing our attention from everything else and focusing it on ourselves. When we direct all our attention 100% to ourself alone, we are not aware of anything else. We then experience ourselves as pure awareness. Ego is finished. But we need to be willing to let go of everything else. That is the problem. That's why we say, I sat down to do vichara and other thoughts came. Why? The other thoughts don't come of their own accord. We think of something because we don't want to, we are not yet ready to let go.
Yeah, Michael, thank you very much to
Right.
clarify this belief.
Yes.
Let's move on to the third one, which is it's about emotion, and a particular emotion, which is anger. And again, enlightened beings or realized beings don't express anger because that's not spiritual,
Well,
or whatever.
This is obviously talking about the person, a person who that is the person who seems to be enlightened, like Bhagavan. Bhagavan sometimes got angry. Got angry means he expressed anger, he displayed anger. Inwardly, of course, he's not angry because he's not affected by anything. But he got angry when certain wrong things were done. For example, if someone was, when people drove away monkeys from the ashram, saying, oh, they're coming and stealing the mangoes. Bhagavan said, they were here long before us. We've come and occupied, this was their forest here. We've come and occupied their forest. And now we say these are our mangoes, drive them away. So Bhagavan got angry. He even got angry sometimes because they planted some mango trees. So they had some nice mango trees there. People are very careful to guard the mango trees because the monkeys will love to come and steal the mangoes. So if they wait for mangoes to ripen, the monkeys will come and steal them all. So they want to get the mangoes before they ripen. So they take sticks and they beat the branches of the tree so that the mangoes fall down before they're ready to, so that the monkeys don't get them first. When people were beating when they beat the branches of the mango tree, of course, leaves and everything, not only fruit, but leaves, everything falls down. But when you used to get angry when he saw that, he said, if this tree is giving you nice fruit, why should you beat it? So he got angry when it was appropriate. But there are times when great injustices were done right in front of him, he would just, as if he was ignoring it, because he knew what was happening in order to suppress. Like, for example, Murugan was such a good devotee of Bhagavan, but he was so badly treated by the ashram management. Bhagavan knew he was being mistreated. Even Murla's songs were banned in the ashram. And they used to have people used to put the dust jacket of Tiruvachikam, an old classic work. They used to put Ramana Sandhi Murai inside the dust jacket of a Tiruvachikam. Even Bhagavan put his copy of Sandhi Murai inside the jacket of Tiruvachikam. And when Chinnaswamy came and looked in the window, Bhagavan would show, see we're reciting Tiruvachikam. He's not so well educated, so he doesn't know the difference in Ramana Sandhi Murai and Tiruvachikam. So he's happy. Bhagavan has said they're singing Tiruvachikam. So Bhagavan knew the way Murala was being ill-treated, but he didn't interfere, because he knew for true devotees, the oppression of the world is good for the annihilation of ego. So Bhagavan is teaching us through this. We shouldn't resist the oppression of the world. We have only one duty according to Bhagavan, to subside, subside, subside. So for real devotees, he will sometimes, even though they're being mistreated, he will not interfere.
Okay, that's beautiful.
But when it's in the case of monkeys being ill-treated, then he'll interfere. So nothing can be predicted about Bhagavan.
Everything is unpredictable, yeah.
But one thing, whatever actions we see his body or mind doing, that is not actions done by him, because he is just the pure awareness. He's not at all affected by any of these things. He's not even aware of these things. He's aware only of himself. But his love, that is his grace, which is the infinite love that he has for himself, and because we are not other than him, it includes us, that grace makes his body and mind act in a certain way, appropriate to the particular situation.
Okay.
So we can't say how that should be.
Yes, but that we can connect that with the fourth belief,
yes,
that we have for this question, because that could be that thing that you just said about that he reacted in a way, but he wasn't identifying with that or with that emotionally. Inwardly, let's say that he wasn't at all. It was just a external behavior, or
he didn't act.
Yeah,
the body and mind, but he seemed to be, in our view, that body and mind were acting. Their actions were driven by grace. But this fourth belief is awakened beings have a certain personality or preferences, even though they don't identify with them. This is, we have to be very careful with this one, because there are many people who claim to be enlightened, and who clearly have strong personalities, strong egos, and
that was my question.
certain strong likes and dislikes. And they say, oh, I don't, these are all my vasanas, I don't identify with them. It's very, very easy for if you want to be a con man, the easiest way to be a con man is to con people with your jnani. But nobody knows what a real, until we know the jnana in us, how can we know the jnana in others? So a lot of, it has always been the case, not only now, not only in this modern age. In this modern age, they got the access to internet and they can fly around the world and everything, but they have always been, from time immemorial, in any religion, you get con men. You see, in any religion, in any, that is, people take advantage of other people's credulity. So it happens. See in Europe, the Roman Catholic Church, supposed to be a spiritual organization, in the Middle Ages, it was the most powerful. The Pope was the most powerful. He was the king of all kings. There was always tension between the Pope and all the various kings of Europe, and sometimes they used to go and fight with him and everything. This is all in the name of religion. So egos, That's not happening nowadays, but still, in the name of religion, spirituality, there will always be common people who pose as if they're very holy, but actually they've got worldly desires.
And what about, for example, preferences, or let's say personality, or a vague personality or preference? Like, for example, Bhagavan, if somebody had asked Bhagavan to leave the ashram or Arunachala, I would guess that he would say no, maybe, because he wanted to stay there. Or I don't know.
Well, we can't say. Bhagavan, nobody can say what Bhagavan's personality is. Everyone knows Bhagavan is very kind and very loving. But all of a sudden he'll get very angry about something which may not seem to be such a big thing. So Bhagavan has no personality. That's why you cannot predict how Bhagavan will behave in each situation. And it's very, very clear if you observe his whole life. The problem is now so many stories are there. And all the stories we hear about Bhagavan's life are what are told by people, most of whom didn't properly understand Bhagavan. And so the same story, there's so many different versions of it because his actions were interpreted in different ways by different people. But generally, if we see his life, we can see he lived a life free of likes and dislikes, free of any preferences. But at the same time, he acted in a way that was appropriate. Sometimes we can't understand why he acted, why it was appropriate for him to act in this way in such and such a situation, and not to act in another way in another situation. Bhagavan is beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
And we need not try to understand the person that Bhagavan seemed to be, because he wasn't that person. If we want to know Bhagavan, we have to know ourselves. When we know ourselves, we know there never was any person called Ramana Maharshi. But there never was any world, because there never was any ego to see it.
It's inevitable that when we ourselves don't know what that state of liberation is, that we focus on the external and we just project our things on the external appearance and so on. So
in verse 31 of Uludu Napadu, this is a good verse to end this talk about the enlightened being, because this shows this shows what is how we can never understand the jnani. He says, Tanaya Ritu Arinda Tanmaya Nandaku. Bhagavan is here using, in Tamil, often a plural form is used not as a strict plural, but as an honorific form. So he's
say that again, Michael. Not as
the plural form, plural, is used not. A person is often referred, a very honorable, respectable, or an honored person is often referred to in plural, as it's a respectful form. So here he's referring to the jnani in plural, but actually there's only one jnani. So he says, for Tanmayananda means those who are Tanmayananda. That means those who are happiness, which is of the nature of that. That means jnanis. For those who are Tanmayananda, which rose on the destruction of themselves, what one is there, what one exists for them to do. So there's nothing for them to do. Tanne aladu, that other than themselves, Anyam Ondrum Arya, they do not know anything other than themselves. Abba Nileme, their state, Inadu, Endru, Enno, Evan. Who can know what is their state as it is like this? So Bhagavan is not aware of anything other than himself. All he's aware of is Tanmayananda. Tanmayananda means happiness, which is of the nature of that. That means Brahman. So he knows only the happiness of Brahman. He knows nothing else, because he is the happiness of Brahman. It's not that he knows it as an object. He is that happiness. He knows nothing other than himself. So there's nothing for him to do. And how can we, any of us, understand his state? If we want to understand his state, the clue is given in the first two words, tanne aritu, destroying oneself. So only when our self is destroyed, that means ego is destroyed, and we thereby rise as Tanmayananda, not literally rise, it's all this metaphorical language. When we become Tanmayananda, due to the destruction of ego, there'll be nothing for us to do, because doing is only for body, speech, or mind. There's no body, speech, or mind for a jnani. So there's nothing to do, and they're not aware of anything other than themselves. Bhagavan is not aware of anything other than himself. He doesn't even see us as other than himself. He sees us as himself. That's why he's so loving to all. That's why he makes no discrimination between the rich and the poor, the high caste and the low caste, the humans and the animals. He treats all equally. Because in his view, they're all himself.
Yeah.
So we cannot understand his state.
Not at all. So thank you very much, Michael, for reading that verse, which is very, very beautiful.